Welcome to this recorded seminar on activating your MyUI account. This seminar is for both employers and third-party administrators, or TPAs, but please know that our focus will be primarily toward employer accounts. Before we jump in, we want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be covering today. First, I will share with you an overview of MyUI and where the rollout process currently stands. Then we'll be spending time demonstrating how to activate your MyUI account, as well as how to view and verify your employer-TPA relationships in MyUI. We'll conclude with sharing some important resources in the event you still need support with navigating your MyUI tax account. Now, let's begin with an overview of where we are with the implementation of MyUI. As a reminder, UIA will introduce MyUI in two phases. The initial phase for tax launched on February 23, 2026, targeting employers and TPAs. The subsequent benefits phase, which will impact all users, will launch in summer 2026. One thing we will continue to stress is that employers and TPAs will continue to use MyWAM for benefit-related functionality, such as protesting or appealing a claim during this two-system transition period. Now, let's look at how to activate your MyUI account. The first step in activating your MyUI account is to obtain your 8-digit activation code. To retrieve your activation code, you will access your MyWAM account and navigate to the MyUI Activation Code tab. Please note that if you are an employer and a TPA, both codes will be listed. As a reminder, you must have a separate MyLogin for Business account prior to activating each MyUI account. Only users with master account access can see the activation code in MyWAM. If you do not see the MyUI Activation Code tab, this means you do not have the correct permissions to view the activation code. In this circumstance, please contact whoever does to retrieve that activation code. If you are not sure who that person is, or they are no longer in your organization, you will need to contact OEO to retrieve your code. Let's review some frequently asked questions before moving on to the next step. First, what if I can't see the activation code in MyWAM? Well, as we just saw, only users with master account access can view the activation code in MyWAM. You will need to coordinate with that user. If they are no longer accessible, you will need to contact OEO for support in retrieving your activation code. Second, if I was not registered as an employer or TPA before the launch of MyUI, will I need a MyWAM account to complete the initiation process? In this circumstance, if you're a new employer or TPA, you'll just register yourself directly in MyUI. A MyWAM account is not needed to register a new employer or TPA in MyUI. But please note, you still will need a MyWAM account to manage claims during the two-system transition period. The second step in the process is to navigate to the MyLogin for Business screen. After retrieving your 8-digit activation code from MyWAM, you'll navigate to the UIA homepage. OEO will often refer to the female in the yellow cardigan as a point of reference. Once there, you will scroll down to the Services section. This is shown by two people shaking hands. Here, you will see two links labeled MyUI for Tax, one for employers and one for TPAs. It is important that as an employer, you are always accessing the employer's MyUI for Tax link. Even if you're an employer looking to establish your TPA relationship, you'll still navigate to your employer MyUI for Tax link first. Similarly, TPAs on the call, you will always access the TPA link. Even if you're a TPA looking to complete actions on the behalf of one of your employers, you still will select the TPA MyUI for Tax link first to navigate to your TPA account. Let's continue by selecting the employer's MyUI for Tax link. Step 3 is to log into MyLogin for Business. Selecting that MyUI tax link took us directly to the MyLogin for Business screen. Here, you will enter your MyLogin for Business credentials that you've already created for your employer account. This includes your user ID, your password, and selecting the checkbox that you agree to the terms and conditions. Then, select Login. As a reminder, if you already have a MyLogin for Business account, you do not need another one to access MyUI. However, if you had 2 or more MyWAM activation codes, you will need separate MyLogin for Business credentials for each account type. Before we continue, let's review some key information about activating your account. For employers, all employers that had a MyWAM account did have their account information going back 10 years to January 1st, 2015 automatically transferred to MyUI. While TPAs did have their accounts transferred over, they did not have the data transferred over to MyUI. Also, for employers that had an existing MyWAM account, you should be going through the process of initiating your account like I'm demonstrating now, instead of registering a new business. This ensures that your business is connected to the data that was transferred from MyWAM. To ensure that transition was both secure and straightforward, UIA did provide the 8-digit activation code within your existing MyWAM account. Employers, you will use that 8-digit code along with your federal employer identification number and your employer account number to activate your new MyUI account. TPAs, on the other hand, will use their 8-digit activation code and their social security number or their federal employer identification number to activate their MyUI TPA account. As a reminder, only those with master account access in MyWAM will be able to view that 8-digit activation code. And one last thing for employers. If you previously used a TPA to complete actions on your behalf, such as submitting a wage report or making payments, this is a reminder that you still must activate your employer account. MyUI is an employer-driven system, which means it's you, the employer, who must activate your account and verify that your TPA relationship is active and accurate. I'll show you later how to verify that TPA relationship if applicable. Now, some frequently asked questions we often get. First is, does it matter who in my organization conducts the activation process? And the choice is ultimately yours, so it does not matter. But please note that the first person who activates the account will automatically be assigned as a system administrator on your account, which means they will have full account access to complete actions on your behalf, as well as access to the data that was transferred from MyWAM. For this reason, make sure that the person conducting the activation is someone you want to have that full access. That individual will also be the person responsible for adding other user profiles to the account. The second question is more related to MyLogin for Business. And it's, what if I'm getting an error message when creating a MyLogin for Business account that says I'm blocked? In this circumstance, please know that there is a protection mechanism that prevents users with disposable or generic email addresses. So if you're trying to register an account using one, such as a generic contact us email for your employer, it will block that request. We're going to ask that you attempt to register the account using a work email that's tied to you specifically or your personal email address. We're now on step 4. To recap, we accessed our MyWAM account and recorded the 8-digit activation code. We then went to the UIA homepage and scrolled down to the services section where I selected the employer's MyUI for Tax link. TPAs, you would select the TPA link. And that took us directly to the MyLogin for Business page where we entered in our MyLogin for Business credentials. Now I will see the employer landing page where it'll have a welcome message and a section called Begin Your Account Setup. If you were trying to register as a new employer or TPA, you would select the far left option of registration. If you were activating a user profile, meaning you were added as a secondary user on an existing account, you would select the far right option. But for this presentation, because we are initiating our existing account, we're going to select the middle option labeled Employer Account Initiation. Upon selecting that link, it navigates me to the Employer Account Initiation screen. Here, I will enter in the information of my employer business to authenticate it in MyUI. This includes the 9-digit federal identification number that's assigned to me by the IRS, followed by my 7-digit employer account number. This is the number that's assigned to you by UIA when you registered your business. Please note, if viewing your EAN in MyWAM, it will show as a 10-digit number. That's because in MyWAM, it actually listed the 7-digit EAN followed by 3 digits that were your reporting or unit or location code. In MyUI, you will only need that 7-digit EAN. I will enter in the first 7 digits of the EAN. Next, I'll enter in that 8-digit activation code that I retrieved from MyWAM. For TPAs, you will see a similar screen for agent account initiation, but as mentioned earlier, in addition to entering in that 8-digit activation code, you will see fields to enter in either your federal employer identification number or your social security number. Next, select Authenticate. If the previously entered information is correct, you will see the Initiation Complete screen. Congratulations, at this point, you have successfully initiated your MyUI account. You would then select Next to navigate to your account. And please know that for the initial sign-in, you will be directed to a screen where you will review your owner and officer list and make any updates that were transferred from MyWAM before navigating to your employer account page. Now, let's quickly show you what you're going to see the next time you log into your MyUI employer account. After activating your MyUI account and logging into My Login for Business, you'll return back to the Welcome screen. But this time, it will list the business that you already activated. Selecting the business name will navigate you directly to the MyUI employer account homepage. You'll also notice on this screen that there is the Add New Employer option. Selecting this option will allow you to add additional businesses to your MyUI account. Upon selecting the Add New Employer button, the Begin Your Account Setup section will reappear. This is where I can again select the appropriate option that I want to use, such as registering another business, employer account initiation of another employer business, or activating a user profile, meaning I'm being added as a secondary user to an existing account. One last thing I want to show is if you are an employer that does have multiple businesses, how you can manage them within MyUI. From your MyUI employer account homepage, you will notice in the upper right corner a Switch Business link. If you select that link, it will take you back to the employer landing page that we just saw, where you can quickly select the other business that you want to access. This option allows you to quickly navigate between different employer accounts without the need to log out and log back in. For the final section of this seminar, I will show you how you can view your employer and TPA relationships in MyUI, both from the employer perspective and the TPA perspective. Before we do this, let's quickly review how that information was transferred over from MyWAM to MyUI. Many employers use TPAs to execute various unemployment insurance-related tasks on their behalf. As stated earlier, MyUI is an employer-driven system where employers will take the active role in managing their TPA relationships. It is the employer who will be able to maintain the TPA relationship by determining the service dates and assigning roles for their TPAs so that a TPA can act on their behalf. Employers will need to associate their account with a TPA using the TPA's new MyUI TPA ID. This action by the employer confirms appropriate access is granted to their account, therefore enhancing security of the employer's information. This only has to be completed once, and thereafter can be simply maintained at any time by the employer. Further instructions on how employer and TPA assignment works can be found on MyUI University. As part of the transition from MyWAM to MyUI, UIA did convert all of those employers and TPA relationships from MyWAM to MyUI, including WOTC TPAs. The only exception to this is if you are an employer who had 2 or more assigned TPAs in MyWAM. In this situation, that would mean that UIA would have had to have choose which TPA would be assigned to the employer, when ultimately that decision is up to the employer. And so in that case, the employer was not added to the TPA record, and that relationship was not established. Therefore, the employer must log into their account and grant permission to that TPA. For all other TPA and employer relationships, if there was not a conflict in MyWAM, it was transitioned to MyUI. Another important note is that as part of the relationship, the role permissions that were automatically assigned to the TPA were the ability to update and submit payments and submit wage reports. This means that if an employer and TPA relationship was able to be established automatically as part of that Go Live automatic assignment, the TPA was given the ability to submit a wage report and submit a subsequent payment. For all other types of permissions, such as account maintenance or the ability to view benefit charges, the employer must log into MyUI and specifically grant the TPA permission to act on their behalf. This also includes employers who are only participating in the WOTC program. You should also log in and verify the permissions of the TPA. Now, let's look at how employers can see their TPA association. On the employer homepage, you will scroll down to a section listed Associated TPAs. Here is where you can see any associated TPA, including their service beginning and ending dates, as well as the assigned roles they have on your account. You can select the TPA authorization link in the upper right corner to manage your existing TPAs or to add a new TPA. As a reminder, if adding a new TPA, you will need their TPA ID from their MyUI account. For TPAs, let's quickly show how you can view a list of your clients or employers. On the TPA homepage, you will select TPA Authorized Employer Search under the Searches menu. This will navigate to the Employer Search screen, where you can go ahead and enter in any desired search criteria if searching for a specific employer or a specific role that you've been assigned for your employers. You can also leave this section blank, and selecting Search will display the results of all associated employers to your TPA account. In the search results section that appears, you'll view your employers, the assigned roles, and the service dates. If you would select an employer's name, it would navigate you to their employer account, where you can then complete actions on their behalf. In addition, there is an option to select Export to CSV, which will export the list of clients to a CSV file that will be downloaded to your desktop. Let's review some FAQs regarding employer and TPA relationships. First, did the roles for my TPA transfer from MyWAM to MyUI? For any employer that had one TPA, that TPA was converted to MyUI. However, if the employer had multiple TPAs for the same role during the same service period, it was not converted, and the employer must assign roles to the TPA from within their employer account. This brings up the next question is, well, how do I add a TPA to my employer account? As stated earlier, MyUI is that employer-driven system, and therefore the employer will be responsible for adding a TPA and assigning the roles within their account. To do so, you'll navigate to the Associated TPA section and select the TPA authorization link in the upper right corner. From there, it'll take you to a screen where you can select to add a new TPA. And don't forget, employers, you will need the MyUI TPA ID of the TPA you're trying to add to successfully associate your account to theirs. At this time, I want to quickly remind you of the resources available to support you not only in account activation, but functionality beyond that within MyUI. MyUI University continues to be updated with resources, including videos, FAQs, newsletters, and a plethora of other resources that can support you, again, not only in activating your account, but also with wage reporting, submitting payments, and associating your employer and TPA relationship. Please continue to access MyUI University from the UIA homepage with support in completing many of the tasks outside of what we covered today. This concludes our recorded seminar, and I thank you so much for spending part of your day to learn about MyUI. We hope you found value in this information and the demonstrations as you activate your MyUI account.